real-time AI insights, industry trends, and executive level analysis without the hype. I'm your sit-in guest host, Nick James. Albert is still off somewhere doing something. Uh, all to remain confidential. But he's doing big things, and we love him for it. So I'm here with my co-host Jason Hess. So let's jump right in.
Morning.
Good
Got a
morning.
little Robin Williams in there. I thought we're Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah, yeah, bringing it back. You got to keep him alive.
Yep.
He was just America's sweetheart, man. I miss that guy. He's just hilarious. Anyway, what's to expect today morning? I'm just going to go over sort of our three topics for the day. Um, this is so weird. Okay, number one, Microsoft cancels AI data center investments. And then number two, Apple invests $500 billion in AI infrastructure in one location, Houston, Texas. My friends, Texas is booming once again. And third topic, Arc Evo 2 and the future of AI driven genome design and potentially enhancement. So, Jason, what are we cooking today?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's a tale of two different companies heading in two different directions. It looks like. Microsoft has canceled the lease on a few of their data center constructions. They're saying that there's some issues with power constraints and being able to support that, and just wondering, is that a bigger thing? Are they not really seeing the value in getting that OpenAI exclusive deal that they have? I'm not real sure what's going on with it, but they're still committing to the $80 million for AI data centers that they said on their earnings call back in January. So it's hard to figure out, is this just a location situation that they picked the wrong location and they just can't get enough power to it and they're going to reevaluate, or is there something bigger at play?
That's a great question, and I believe I heard that they had a pretty sizable and significant deployment or plan to build a data center in Wisconsin, and they canceled that one too. Is that true?
I believe so, but a lot of the facts are still a little bit blurry. A lot of it is just conjecture. I think we'll have to wait till the Q2 earnings report to really see what
Right.
Microsoft is fully changing and evolving. But yeah, right now it's people are reeling of like what's really going on. Is this deep seek and is this disrupting it? What is the disruptor that's causing Microsoft to make this pivot and this change?
True. If we so let's lay out the timeline. So we'll talk about Apple in just a second. So Stargate happens. SoftBank comes in. OpenAI is on stage. We got Larry Ellison, and they're like, "All right, we're bringing $500 billion into the American economy, right, to kick off the Trump administration, to show our commitment to building locally, building here in the U.S., and bringing more AI infrastructure."
Right.
And then now,
But, but right there, Satya, right after that announcement, Satya said, "We are committing $80 million for
yeah,
AI infrastructure."
right.
So he was, standing by that, and it still looks like he still is. But I guess, there's some other things that are changing.
So, but it seems like, and I've heard Satya say this a few times. He's concerned of overbuild. What can you tell the crowd what that means? I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory, but
Yeah,
break.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They over committed what they were planning on being able to support based on the consumption that they're seeing and the adoption that they're seeing. So, it's building out. You're expecting to have, you know, a significant amount of usage, and you built a data center that was big enough to be able to expand, but some of the assumptions were incorrect or changed, and now you've got this large data center that's module that now you got to figure out what you want to do with it. So it looks like they've kind of overestimated what the adoption was, and maybe it was because they thought they were the exclusive players, and now other companies have come in. Gronk set up their data center in 121 days, and
Yeah,
it's
that was crazy.
200,000 GPUs in it or some ridiculous number.
Let's talk a little bit about. It feels like high school dating. Okay, so if you noticed who was on stage with Sam Altman during the Stargate announcement,
Right. It
Satya Nadella
was
was not on
Larry
stage.
Ellison in Oracle.
So it was $300 million. Was it 300 million or billion that Microsoft invested in OpenAI? I
I
can't.
think
I don't know if it's an M or a B.
I think it was billions.
Billions. So they gave the dowry, okay, initially, and they proposed, and I think there was a cordial exception. But I've heard rumblings about just a bit of a dissolution of relationship between OpenAI and Microsoft. And now I believe that, and this is not speculation, this is more of just observation, that OpenAI's diversification of cloud providers, i.e., Oracle, Larry Ellison was standing on stage, this could shift and reduce Microsoft AI's data center needs, right?
Right.
Because if OpenAI is like, okay, we're going to have an open relationship, right? And I think they were preparing their home, right, their data center homes
Yeah,
for
yeah, for that exclusivity and building the future with them.
exactly. And I think this open relationship has caused Satya to pull back. And I think the determination here is they're going to have too much compute, too many racks that are being unused, simply because they overestimated the consumption and the needs of OpenAI. Now that OpenAI is going out to different cloud providers, what do you think about that?
I think that's absolutely correct, and I think there's also the expansion of how many people are jumping into this market space right now, which 20 or 12 months ago it was a very small group of companies that were on that leading edge. Now you've got probably close to a dozen key players that have some type of a market share. So I think Microsoft is hedging correctly, but I think it's also do they have other partnerships that they can leverage outside of OpenAI?
Yeah, I just think that I think the needs will come. I think perhaps maybe we're just building too much too fast. I don't think this train is going to slow down.
No,
Maybe
at all.
one of the cars slow down, but I think this train is on full speed. So let's talk about Apple. Apple comes out and says, "Okay, we're putting $500 billion in AI infrastructure in Houston, Texas." What do you think
Wow.
about
Yeah, so I think this goes back to their summer announcement of Apple Intelligence,
that?
and that you'd be able to have dedicated edge compute if you had to, if you couldn't run it off your phone, you'd have a dedicated edge compute. And I believe this is their first step into building out those data centers that's going to be able to support those individual resources to be able to do that in a safe, secure way. And Apple Intelligence was really pushed as a safe and secure way of utilizing OpenAI. And I believe their play is going to be more of, I'm going to give you options to use any of the models, but we're going to do it in a safe way. We're going to make sure we're protecting your data, that you're not just exposing everything. So I think it's a good play. It's great to see it coming to Texas. Lots of energy in Texas, especially down in Houston. There's a lot of excess energy out there. So I think this is what we expected to hear from them. They were been really quiet since their announcement of Apple Intelligence.
Yeah. Apple likes to do this, and Apple has been famously known to be contrarian, as to not jump on bandwagons. I mean, Samsung has been releasing features on phones far longer, and it's funny. If Albert was here, he'd be showing off his Samsung phone that like literally folds like a sandwich, like a taco.
Yes.
Um, and Apple didn't jump on the OLED train. And Samsung has been delivering like really high tech features on their phones for a long time now, and Apple's been completely unfazed, and they're following that same sort of that same tone. Um, but I think now one can interpret it as they're taking safe and risk based
Very
measures sort of
methodical approach
actions.
and measured. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, um, absolutely. I love that it's here in Texas, and I think Albert, if he were here, would be jumping up and down because that's his home base. But I think Apple was a little slow to the game, and they do like making very very fancy, very sexy announcements. But, but
I
sometimes,
don't think it's affected them. I mean, they have such strong brand loyalty and their ecosystem is just amazing. The fact that you can go from your phone to your tablet to your
yeah,
laptop and all of your messages are there, all of your information is there, it makes it very easy to use. And that ecosystem is great. I think once you start integrating AI, I don't particularly care for what they've rolled out so far. I'm not a big emoji guy, so I don't need to build my own emojis.
okay,
But I think I think they're heading in the right direction. I don't think their summaries are quite there yet of their email summaries and things like that. But I think as they get better, as they start integrating this more effectively, I think they are going to be a force to be reckoned with. And if they go with the approach of we're just going to pick the best models and enable you to choose based on what your question is, that may be the way of the future. I know we both kind of feel that that's where it's going to be, that it's not going to be one of these model providers are going to be the de facto winner. I think they each solve different purposes, as we spoke about yesterday with Claude 3.7 release. They're all going to provide different value, and having that proxy that's telling you, here, let's go ask that question to this model or you ask it to this model based on what you've got. I think that's where Apple may be leaning towards.
absolutely. And I think that it's about high time that we saw this kind of moves and actions out of Apple. They've been taking it easy, and I really think that they're now repositioning themselves as a strong player in the even in the chip manufacturing market, is what I hear.
Yeah.
So they're stepping outside the bounds of consumer hardware, and they're getting into data center hardware. So I'm very excited to see what happens with Apple. But let's talk about uh, let's talk about this Arc Evo 2 and the future of AI driven design. You said you heard it on.
Yeah, so I heard it on that other podcast that's competing with us to be the future of that, the All In podcast. They had the two brothers that created Stripe were on, and they were talking. They're board members of the Arc Ev console, and it was very interesting because we always talk about all of the big models, the ChatGPTs, the Claudes, the Geminis. But there's a lot of other models in Hugging Face that are very purpose built and purpose specific. And the Arc EV is no exception. This one is built on DNA from everything. So, like ChatGPT, it's trained on words. This one's trained on all of DNA. So it's able to start figuring out a lot of this gene mutation and kind of doing a lot of that evaluation, whether it's for drug companies and future drugs or just medical professionals. There's a lot of other models out there that are purpose built to do this, and we wanted to kind of talk about that to make sure people are aware that your ChatGPTs and your Claudes and your Geminis are out there. But if you have something very specific, whether you're a lawyer and you need something like a law GPT that's really specific and has only been trained on laws and or if you're looking for something for finance, there are these purpose-built models that can really help your company in being able to be aware of that. So wanted to kind of bring that up, that there is more out there. There is more to AI than just the big players that we typically talk about.
Yeah,
Something that's something that depending on your use cases, you may want to look into this. If you're in a life science or biology type of organization, this may be something you want to take advantage of.
Great points. I love analogies, and I think everybody can really relate to analogies because they help break down complex topics in simple and easy to understand, more relatable scenarios. So, I would like to say that going to an OpenAI like a ChatGPT or a Claude or a Gemini, that's kind of like going to your primary care provider. They know a little bit about everything, right?
Yep.
But they can't go deep, right? If they need to go deep, if you're having heart problems or if you're having nervous system issues, you're going to be referred out to a specialist, right? So that's going to be a cardiologist or a neurologist, etc. So I would say that ChatGPT is like a primary care provider, whereas like these fine tuned, and we'll talk a little bit about fine tuned and break that down, what that means. These fine-tuned models are more like those specialists. What do
Yeah.
you think about that?
No, I think that's a great analogy. When you were talking about that, I was thinking about college. Like there's a business school, there's a medical school. You
Yeah.
have all these different specialties, and you'll have models for that. So it's a
Yep.
great way to think of it. It's you've got general purpose and you have that basic, but when you want specialty and you've got something very specific and detailed you need to go to, that's when having one of these other models, and it's very easy to do, to be able to use those. With White Glove, we actually help you as you're beginning that journey and helping you make those determinations as well as being able to install that in your own environment if you need a private one model to be set up. You want to talk a little bit more about some of our White Glove offerings?
Yeah,
Talk enough
absolutely.
about that, I think.
I think that we need to talk about our VCAIO, what the service that you offer under White Glove AI. Talk about like the how the VCAIO serves in the best interest of our clients, is their trusted AI adoption partner, and really comes in with a consultative approach to tailor fit. Like this is a great like we don't want to be using ChatGPT if we're looking at radiology like images, right?
No, no,
Like
no,
you want
no.
to be using a fine tuned model that perhaps is secure, of course, and perhaps your compute is in AWS, and you should be using things like Bedrock, right? Because Bedrock has a number of these fine tuned models. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. So the VCIO service, we provide an on-demand AI executive to be a part of your company and help you design your strategy. We have three services that we provide to be able to help you. All of them are based on the AI adoption management framework that we released last week. So the first one is our Launchpad. So your company, you're just starting to get involved in AI, you don't really know where to go, we can come in for an 8-week engagement and help you design your strategy, identify three use cases where AI could really transform your organization, and then we'll do an assessment of how long it currently takes to do that task, and then we'll work on implementing AI and be able to take a final assessment of how long that take and the return on investment of that. So it's a very easy to consume, get you first started understanding the value that AI can provide you in a very manageable short engagement. From
Absolutely.
there, once you see the value and you're like, okay, I'm ready to completely transform my entire business, that is where we have our adoption service. And we'll go through all 6 stages of the AIAMF, designing your strategy, working with you to help design your governance, how to integrate that into your, to innovate, to be able to identify all of those use cases, be able to secure them, then work on integrate or to operationalize them, making sure that you have the observability and the things that are necessary to run an AI at scale in operations, and then finally how to integrate that into your environment and your organization.
Now, what if I've already made some heavy investments in AI and I'm kind of stuck from a budgetary standpoint and from a contractual commitment standpoint? Is there a service for that?
Yeah, yeah. So that's our last service offering, and we see this quite often. Many people that are Microsoft organizations, they've implemented Copilot, and they're not seeing the adoption of Copilot that they expected their workforce. And a lot of the times, it's because the workforce doesn't know how to use it. We're seeing a struggle with AI literacy for the middle of the organization. With those first adopters, people like Nick and I, that as soon as ChatGPT became, we were one of the first 1 million downloading the capability. We're been a but that middle of the organization, they're still a little skeptical of it. They're not sure how to get started. And that's where we come to help. We can do engagements to help provide you training. We have frameworks to help you design prompts that really help you get the most out of it, because that's the hardest part once you get started with utilizing these. Asking the right questions to get the most optimal result. I've seen lots of people that have written a question thinking that the models already know all of this information because they hear how smart they are. But you got to remember, they don't know what's in your head and what you're really asking. So you've got to be a lot more thorough in what you're providing for information and the context you're providing to do that. So we have an engagement where we can help get the most out of your current investments and how to get your staff work there. And it doesn't matter if they're technical or non-technical, we can provide that level of substance to be able to satisfy both of those.
So, I mean, what if it feels like to me that this whole AI thing is just not worth it? Like, it feels like just another tool that I have to train my staff on, and they're probably mad at me because they think that it's going to take my job. What do you think about that?
I don't think it's going to take jobs. I think it's going to take tasks away, but it will change how jobs are done. And we were talking this weekend with Professor Venke, and I was asking him, I've got a 5-year old, what's the future look like for them? And he said, they're going to figure it out. And it made me reflect on my career path. And when I graduated from high school, none of the jobs that I've had were actually jobs that the guidance counselor recommended. There was no such thing as cybersecurity when I graduated. There was no such thing as solutions architect, chief AI officer. All of these roles that I've taken on have not been around that long. And so you're going to evolve. So many of the titles that you currently have may not be here, but there's going to be new ones and there's going to be new capabilities. And AI is going to unlock a lot of your creativity that you didn't think was possible last year, because now you have a PhD assistant there sitting right next to you, helping you guide your career and guiding your business. So I think that's how it's going to change. I think there's a lot of, oh, this is going to take my job. I think it's going to take away your title, but it's going to give you a new title.
That's great. I love that perspective. Want to get back to, well, I mean, we'll talk about our managed AI services in the future. I do have Lucidus, our shirt on. Shout out to Benny Scaria. He's the CEO of Lucidus. It's a subsidiary of White Glove AI. It powers our Automate AI. It's basically a product that's wrapped around, and we wrap a service around it like we do for the rest of our managed AI services. But Lucidus is saving companies. I mean, I think we're in the millions now. We're processing vital records for counties, doing it at paces that were never achievable. We are processing work orders for property preservation. But yeah, I think we're hitting the millions of dollars now. We're in the seven figures in terms
That's
of
awesome.
return on investment. So we'll talk more about that later. I want to come back to this Arc Evo 2. I did want to share that analogy that I promised I'd share. Um, let's break down fine tuning a little bit. So fine tuning is when you take a general model. Um, I'm struggling to find a really good example, so let's use dogs. I think there are a lot of dog lovers out there, and
Yep.
we like to take our dogs and make them specialists at something, right? So there are emotional support dogs, right? There are military dogs. There are canine unit dogs, right? That support our police officers. So
Agility, all these different competitions. If you watch some of these shows late at night or the morning ones, yeah, there's so many different roles that they can play. Or you can just have one like mine that just wants to bite any guest that comes in.
not to get too far off into the to the dog topic, but fine tuning is very much like teaching a dog a new skill. You don't want to bring a dog to life on your own, because that's very difficult. Meaning you don't want to build a foundational model like an AI model from scratch. There are companies out there that have open sourced, like Meta is a very popular one, who have open sourced the Llama series of models, right? So don't get confused with all these animal names. Llama is the name of the series of AI models, and they're completely open source, and they're open sourced on a commercial license. So companies like ours help our clients take these models and teach them new skills. Okay, give them new skill, like we're talking about this Arc Evo 2. The company that released Arc Evo 2 has fine tuned it with new data sets specific to the human genome, right? So you want to talk a little bit about fine tuning, and then we'll close out.
Yeah, yeah. So the way that the fine tuning works is it's able to ingest all of these different data sets and being able to label them, and then you're focused on getting the optimal. Just like when we were talking about getting the optimal questions, you've got to be able to find that, so fine tune it so it provides the right level of details, gives you the expected results, and make sure that it's not providing you and not limiting the amount of hallucinations. So it's a process. Typically, it takes probably 3 to 6 months to be able to start really fine tuning and getting the best results from that, making sure that there's no hallucinations and no false information. So it's a process that you're building in, that you're writing prompts to be able to get that for you.
Perfect. All right, another day is done in the
I
AI.
did have one question out, or not question, one statement out there. I would love to get your opinion on it, Nick. So
What?
Masha asks, that was a great point. Spending too much time in college on something I didn't use. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that the schooling system, because of scale, had to apply cookie cutters, right? And we were required to learn subjects that more than likely is a high probability of chance that we wouldn't use. Like I've never used the Pythagorean's theorem after I learned it in math class. Okay, so I'm totally with you, Masha. But I think it was just a sign of the times, right? And I think more customized, more tailored education is coming. It's abound. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. And next week, I'm speaking to junior and senior high school students
Great.
on their career day about what their future is, and a lot of the things that they're going to learn in college are steps to help them build that resiliency, be able to be creative and be curious and find information. Most of the things within technology are out of date within 18 months. So it's hard to build a curriculum that stays relevant for that. So it's learning the basics, learning the foundation, learning the skills in order to do research, to find information. So there's still value in the educational system. I think you still will have to continue to learn. And I think no matter what age you are, continuous learning is critical to staying evolved in this society.
And there are a number of certifications out there. A lot of them are free. I know a number of the large providers like Google, AWS, provide free AI certifications. So get out there, start learning, be curious. Let's close this out. As always, a huge shout out to Dr. Donnie Went. He's in here in the chat room every morning with us, supporting us. He's also a VCAIO, just like Jason. So, any parting words here, Jason?
Uh, Dr. Donnie said he still uses the Pythagorean theorem, and I think that's because he's a doctor and you're not.
I love that. All right, so that's it for today's AI Executive Morning Buzz. Huge thanks to Jason. We miss you, Albert. Can't wait to have you back probably tomorrow morning, for joining us and sharing, just all these amazing insights. And as we always say, stay curious, stay innovative, and we'll see you every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning, 7:30 a.m. sharp Central Standard Time. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.